All right, chemistry, this is the review for the retake of the week 6 quiz, which is given in week 7. It's week 6, and so let's get started on that. Okay, so how many moles of CO2, so right away question mark in moles of CO2, will be produced by 8 moles of CH4. So 8 goes here in the moles of CH4. You go from the number to the question mark, not the other way. Okay, you're trying to get from what you know to what you don't know. Okay, so that's one arrow, one conversion. So we go ahead and write the equation. One arrow, one box. Okay, and you got to write the equivalency. That's required. You can't. It's not optional. It's 1 mole CH4 equals 1 mole CO2. So you write that down below. Okay, mole CH4 on the bottom. Okay, mole CH4 cancels and cancels. Last man standing is moles of CO2. 8 times 1 divided by 1 is 8. All right, next question. First, we're going to erase our flowchart up here. Okay, and we go down. And it's how many moles of H2O. So I'm going to come up here to moles of H2O, put a question mark. Okay, will be produced by 5.2 grams of CH4. So down here is 5.2 grams in the grams row, okay? So to get from what you know to what you don't know is up and over, okay? The only place you can go sideways is up in the chemical equation in the moles row, okay? So we're going to come over here, and it's going to be moles of H2O, and over here it's going to be 5.2 grams of CH4. Okay, 2 arrows, 2 conversions, so I'm going to draw 2 boxes. Okay, first equivalency, you're going up here. Anytime you're going up and down, it's the molar mass in between the 2 boxes. Okay, we need grams to cancel out, so we need this one on the bottom. Okay, we cancel grams and grams. Let me get on screen here. Grams and grams, okay. That puts us up in this box right here. In the moles of CH4, we don't do that calculation. We just go on to the next box. So now the equivalency. Okay, so now the equivalency is to get from here to here. You just take it straight out of the chemical equation. 1 mole CH4 equals 2 moles H2O. Okay, so moles of CH4 is here, so it has to go on the bottom here. That's this one. Moles H2O goes on top. Okay, moles of CH4 cancels. Last man standing is moles of H2O, which is what we need. So now you multiply everything on the top and divide by everything on the bottom. Okay, and that gives us 0.65 moles of H2O. Okay, next up C. How many moles of O2 is required to produce 8.3 grams of CO2? So we're going to come up here. We have 8.3 in the grams of CO2. And how many moles of O2 is going to be up here. So we need 2 arrows, one up and one over. So that's a 2 conversion problem. So we'll come down and write our equation here. All right, 2 conversions is 2 boxes. Okay, and then the first equivalency we need is the molar mass of CO2, which is 44.01. Grams of CO2 on top, so we need to put this one on the bottom. Okay, and 1 mole CO2 goes on the top. Okay, grams of CO2 cancels and cancels. So now we're sitting here in this box, moles of CO2, and we need to get to here. So the equivalency is 2 moles O2 equals 1 mole CO2. Okay, and we need moles of CO2 here. We need it on the bottom here. Okay, moles of CO2 cancels and cancels. Last man standing is moles of O2. So we multiply everything on the top, divide by everything on the bottom. Okay, and it's 0.38 moles of O2 is our final answer, okay? And we'll come up here. All right, and then the question is, how many grams of O2 is required to make 12.52 grams of H2O? Come over here. We've got 12.52 here. Okay, and it's how many grams of O2 here? So you cannot go straight across. Okay, you can only go sideways when you're up in the equation because it's the only place we have relationships between the compounds. So you have to go up to here, over to here, and down. So that's 3 arrows, 3 boxes. So we'll write the equation. 1, okay, and 2 and 3. Okay, so first equivalency is going from here to here, up and down. You always use the molar mass in between those 2 boxes. Okay, we have grams of H2O up here, so we need it down here. Okay, grams of H2O cancels and cancels. That means we're sitting in this box right here. We need to get over to here. So it's 2 moles of H2O equals 2 moles of O2. Okay, we have moles of H2O here. We need moles of H2O on the bottom. Okay, cancel and cancel. Now we're sitting in this box right here. We need to come out to here, so you need the molar mass for oxygen. Okay, moles of O2 up here, so you need moles of O2 down here. And the 32 grams up on top. Okay. Moles O2 cancels and cancels. Last man standing is grams of O2 right there. Okay, so we multiply everything on the top, divide by... Okay, and we get 22.23. 22.23. Let me clean that up. Okay, grams of O2. Okay, next up, letter E. How many grams of O2 will be needed to produce 5.67 moles of H2O? So over under moles of H2O, we have this. And it's how many grams of O2? So that's going to be down here, and that's a question mark. So we start at 5.67, we come over here and down like that. Okay? So the first equivalency is going to be 2 moles of O2 equals 2 moles of H2O. Sorry. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our equation first. Trying to get to grams of O2, and we're starting with 5.67 moles of H2O. Okay, it's a 2-box problem. Okay, first equivalency goes from here to here, so it's 2 moles O2 equals 2 moles H2O. Okay, we got moles of H2O up here, so we need it down here. Alright, so now we're sitting in this box right here, and we need to get out to grams of O2 using the molar mass of oxygen. Got moles of O2 up here, we need it down here. Okay, so we had moles of H2O cancel and cancel. We had moles of O2 cancel and cancel. Last man standing is grams of O2. And so we multiply everything on the top, divide by everything on the bottom. Okay, and we get 181 grams of O2. Okay, next question is, how many grams of O2 are required to produce 12.6 grams of H2O? So come over here, 12.6 grams of H2O is here, grams of O2 is right here. Okay, so we're going to have to go up, over, and back down there. Okay. Start over here. Okay, we drew 3 arrows, so it's going to be 3 boxes. Okay, the first one is to go up from here to here, so you got to use the molar mass of water. Okay, and so we need grams on the bottom. There's grams there. We need grams on the bottom. Okay, grams H2O cancels and cancels. Okay, now we're sitting in this box right here, and we need to get over to here. So it's 2 moles H2O equals 2 moles of O2. Okay, we have H2O up here, so we need H2O down there. Moles of H2O cancels and cancels. Alright, now we need to come out to get to our final answer from here down to here. So the box in between those two is the molar mass of oxygen. Okay, so moles of O2 is up here, so it has to be down here. Okay. Cancel and cancel. Grams of O2 is the last man standing, so it goes there. Multiply everything on the top, divide everything on the bottom. Okay, and we get 22.4 for our answer there. Alright. Okay, the final question. How many moles CH4 are needed to produce 6.8 grams of CO2? And we got 6.8 grams of CO2. And we want to know how many moles of CH4, so that's a question mark here. So you come up here and over to there. That's 2 arrows, 2 conversions. It's a 2-box problem. Okay, first we need to get from grams to moles up here, so the box in between is the molar mass of CO2. Okay, you have grams up here, you need grams down here. Grams CO2 cancels and cancels. Okay, so now we're sitting in the box here. We need to get over to here. So it's 1 mole CH4 equals 1 mole CO2. Okay, CO2 is on the top here, so it has to be on the bottom here. And 1 mole CH4 is on the top. Mole CO2 cancels and cancels. Mole CH4 is the last man standing. It matches up with what we have. Multiply everything on the top, divide everything on the bottom. Alright, and we get 0.15 moles of CH4. And that wraps up this review for the retake of the week 6 quiz.